What happens when a beloved wildlife champion gets blindsided on live television with questions that cross every line of decency? Well, you're about to find out because Robert Irwin just walked off the Today Show in the middle of an interview. And the footage is absolutely wild. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below after you hear how this unfolded. Robert Irwin was booked for what should have been a feel-good morning segment. You know the drill. Updates from Australia Zoo, conservation projects, maybe a cute animal cameo. Standard safe territory stuff Robert has done effortlessly his entire life. He grew up on camera. He knows interviews. He's always respectful, thoughtful, and prepared. But on this particular morning, things took a sharp turn no one saw coming. The interview began just as expected. The host, let's call him Marcus, welcomed Robert with warm smiles and polite small talk. He opened with an easy question about what's new at the zoo. Robert lit up instantly, talking about the arrival of a new baby orangutan and the expansion of several conservation programs. His excitement was genuine, infectious even. For the first few minutes, everything felt perfectly on track. Then Marcus leaned forward. He wore a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "So, Robert," he said, "you've built quite a career for yourself, haven't you? Following in your father's footsteps. That has to come with a lot of pressure." Robert nodded calmly. "I don't really see it as pressure," he replied. "It's about passion. My dad taught me to love wildlife and to fight for conservation, and that's what drives me every day." Marcus nodded back, then immediately pivoted. "But is it really your work?" he asked. "Or are you just living off your father's name? Let's be honest, without Steve Irwin, would anyone really care what you have to say?" The air in the studio changed instantly. Robert's smile faded. There was a beat of silence where the tension felt almost physical. He took a breath, steadying himself. "I think that's a pretty unfair characterization," he said calmly. "Yes, my dad is a huge part of why I'm passionate about this work. But I've spent my entire life studying wildlife and building programs that make real differences. This isn't about fame. It's about the animals." Marcus didn't back off. "Sure," he said, "but the Irwin name opens doors that wouldn't be open otherwise. Magazine covers, TV deals. How much of that is your own merit? How much of it is because of who your father was?" Robert's jaw tightened. "I understand my dad's legacy is part of my story," he replied. "But I've worked incredibly hard to earn respect in the conservation community. I'm not coasting on a name. I'm out there every single day doing the work." Marcus cut in again. "Okay, but let's talk about something else. Your mom runs the zoo. Your sister Bindi is involved. It's a family operation. Do you ever feel like you're just playing a role? Like you don't really have a choice but to do this?" That's when Robert straightened in his chair. "That's completely wrong," he said firmly. "Nobody forced me into this. I love what I do. This isn't an obligation, it's my life's calling. And honestly, I find it pretty disrespectful that you're implying my passion isn't genuine." Marcus shrugged. "I'm just asking questions people are curious about. You're young. You're famous. You could have done anything. Some might say you didn't really choose this, that the Irwin brand needs you to play a part." Robert's voice hardened. "I'm not playing a part. This is who I am. I came here today to talk about conservation, not to justify my life to someone who clearly doesn't understand what drives me." Marcus laughed. "Whoa. Touched a nerve there, huh? I'm just being real. People look at you and see Steve Irwin's kid. That's always going to be the headline. Don't you ever get tired of living in his shadow?" The question landed like a bomb. Robert went very still. He locked eyes with Marcus. "My father was an incredible man who dedicated his life to wildlife conservation," he said quietly. "I'm proud to be his son. I'm proud to continue his work. And if you think that means living in a shadow, then you fundamentally misunderstand what we're doing and why it matters. But Marcus kept pushing. Okay, he said, let's talk about your personal life. You've got this squeaky clean image, the good kid who loves animals. Is that really who you are? Or is that just the brand? What happens when the cameras are off? Robert shook his head. I don't see how that's relevant. I came here to talk about conservation initiatives, not my personal life. Marcus leaned forward again, and that's when everything truly started to unravel. Asterisk. Come on, Robert, Marcus said, smirking. Don't be boring. People want to know the real you. You're telling me you've never thought about walking away from all of this? About just being your own person instead of Steve Irwin's son? There was an edge in Robert's voice now. I am my own person, he said. And it's incredibly disrespectful that you keep trying to diminish my work by implying it's fake. Or that I'm somehow trapped in this life. I love what I do. And I'm not going to sit here and let you suggest otherwise. Marcus threw up his hands. All right, no need to get defensive. But since we're being honest, let's talk about the zoo. There's been criticism about keeping animals in captivity. How do you respond to people who say Australia's zoo is just exploiting animals for profit? Robert paused, took a slow breath, and answered carefully. Modern zoos focused on conservation play a critical role in protecting endangered species. We run breeding programs, rehabilitation centers, research initiatives, and education efforts. Every dollar goes back into conservation. We're not exploiting animals, we're trying to keep them from going extinct. Marcus nodded, unconvinced. So it's all altruistic. No financial incentive at all. From the outside, it looks pretty profitable. Your family's wealthy. The zoo is a major tourist destination. Conservation seems good for the brand. Color rose in Robert's face. Are you actually suggesting that we use conservation as a marketing gimmick? He asked, do you have any idea how offensive that is? My father died doing this work. My family has given everything to protecting wildlife. This is not about money or fame. It's about making a difference. Marcus lifted his hands in a patronizing gesture. Hey, I'm not attacking you. I'm just asking questions. But people are curious. You're in the public eye. You make money from the zoo, from TV, from social media. At some point, doesn't it stop being about conservation and start being about business? Robert gripped the armrests of his chair. The business exists to fund the conservation. That's the entire point, he said firmly. We're not a theme park trying to maximize profit. Every decision we make is about what's best for the animals and global conservation efforts. I don't know how to make that clearer. Marcus leaned back. Okay. But let's be real for a second. Your dad Steve was larger than life. He took risks. He got up close with dangerous animals. He made it exciting. That's what people loved. You, though? You're a bit more polished, safer. Do you ever worry you're just a watered-down version of him? The studio fell dead silent. Robert's face flickered through shock, hurt, and anger in a matter of seconds. I cannot believe you just said that, he said slowly. My father died because of the risks he took. He died doing what he loved, but he died. And now you're sitting here suggesting I should be more reckless, more dangerous, just to live up to some version of him that exists in your head. Marcus tried to retreat. No, that's not what I meant. I'm just saying he had this energy, this charisma. You're great at what you do, but you're different from him. Of course I'm different, Robert cut in. I'm my own person. I've said that over and over. But for you to call me a watered-down version of my father after everything, I've explained after everything my family has sacrificed. That's not just disrespectful. It's cruel. Marcus shifted in his chair, realizing he'd pushed too far, but still unwilling to fully back down. I think you're being a little sensitive, he said. I'm trying to have a candid conversation. People compare you to your dad all the time. That's reality. Robert shook his head. There's a difference between acknowledging comparisons and deliberately undermining everything. I do by framing me as an inferior copy of my father, he replied. You've spent this entire interview questioning my authenticity, my motivations, my character, and now you're attacking my legitimacy in the most hurtful way possible. I'm not attacking you, Marcus said sharply. I'm asking tough questions. That's my job. If you can't handle scrutiny, maybe you shouldn't be in the public eye. Robert's eyes widened. His voice dropped. Scrutiny, he said. You think this is scrutiny? This is a hit job, Robert said flatly. From the moment I sat down, you've been trying to tear me apart. You haven't asked a single sincere question about conservation, about the animals, about the work we're actually doing. Every question has been a personal attack. Marcus leaned forward again. Well, maybe if you gave me something interesting to work with, instead of these rehearsed talking points about conservation, we could have a real conversation. You're boring, Robert. There, I said it. You're playing it safe. You're sticking to the script. And it's dull. Robert stood up, not abruptly, not theatrically. He rose slowly, deliberately. I'm done, he said. I came here in good faith to talk about important work, to talk about animals that desperately need help, about conservation initiatives that could make a real difference. Instead, you've used this platform to insult me, my family, and my integrity. You've suggested that I'm somehow failing to live up to my father's legacy. I won't sit here and take this anymore. Marcus blinked, clearly caught off guard. Wait, what are you doing? We're in the middle of an interview. You can't just leave. Robert was already unclipping his microphone. Watch me. This interview is over. You can air whatever footage you want, but I'm not participating in this anymore. And you should be ashamed of yourself for using your platform this way. Marcus scrambled to recover. Come on, Robert. Don't be dramatic. Sit back down. We can talk about something else. What about the animals you brought today? Let's look at those. Robert stopped and turned back. No, he said firmly. You don't get to spend half an hour tearing me down and then casually pivot to animals like nothing happened. Those animals deserve respect. They deserve to be presented by someone who genuinely cares, not used as props to salvage your train wreck of an interview. Marcus's tone hardened. Fine, walk off. But you're making a huge mistake. This is going to look terrible for you. People will think you can't handle tough questions, that you're spoiled, entitled. Robert let out a short, bitter laugh. Tough questions. You didn't ask tough questions. You didn't challenge me on policy, conservation strategy, or anything substantive. You made personal attacks and called it journalism. And if people think I'm entitled for refusing to be disrespected on national television, so be it. A producer off camera tried to intervene, muttering something about a commercial break. But Robert was already heading toward the edge of the set. This is live television, Marcus called after him. You're walking off a live show. Do you understand what you're doing? Robert turned one last time. I understand perfectly. I'm standing up for myself and for the work my family has dedicated our lives to. I'm refusing to be a punching bag for whatever rating stunt you thought this would be. You had the chance to have a meaningful conversation about conservation, wildlife, and things that actually matter. Instead, you chose drama. That says everything about you and nothing about me. Marcus tried once more. You're being incredibly unprofessional. I invited you on this show as a courtesy, and this is how you repay that? Robert stopped fully, turning back with controlled fury under his calm voice. A courtesy. You invited me here to ambush me. Every question was designed to provoke, to create a moment. Congratulations, you got your moment. Just not the one you wanted. You wanted me to lose control so you could paint me as unstable. Instead, I'm walking away from a toxic situation. That's called self-respect. The host's composure finally cracked. You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe you really are just Steve Irwin's son and nothing more. Without that name, maybe you'd be nobody. How does that feel? The studio audibly gasped. Even the crew froze. Robert stood silently for a moment, absorbing it. Then he spoke quietly. I genuinely pity you. I don't know what's going on in your life that makes you think it's acceptable to talk to people this way, but I hope you figure it out. For now, I'm done. Good luck with the rest of your show. He turned and walked off the set. Behind him, Marcus struggled to regain control, muttering something to the camera about unexpected circumstances and technical issues. But his voice was unsteady and everyone watching could tell something had truly gone off the rails. Asterisk. The damage was already done. The interview had completely imploded. It all played out live, in real time, for millions to see. As Robert disappeared off camera, Marcus struggled to pull himself together. Well, that was unexpected, he said stiffly. I guess some people just can't handle honest journalism. We'll be right back after this break. But his composure was clearly shaken. The co-host, who had sat frozen throughout the exchange, looked horrified. Carefully choosing her words, she spoke up. I think maybe we should acknowledge that the conversation became a little heated. Marcus cut her off instantly. Heated? I was doing my job. I ask questions viewers want answered. If Robert Irwin can't handle that, that's on him, not me. She hesitated, then tried again. I just think calling someone a watered-down version of their deceased father may have crossed a line. That was pretty harsh. Marcus bristled. I'm not apologizing for being honest. He comes in here with this polished image, and I challenged it. That's what good interviewers do. But viewers could already tell the situation had spiraled. Social media exploded almost immediately. Clips began circulating. Comments poured in by the thousands, and a hashtag started trending within minutes. The overwhelming response was outrage directed squarely at Marcus. The co-host made one last attempt. I just think the questions became very personal very quickly, especially when Robert came here to discuss conservation. Are you seriously criticizing me on air right now? Marcus snapped. Robert Irwin walked off our show. That's on him. Maybe he's not as mature as everyone thinks. She fell silent, but her expression said everything. When the show returned from commercial, the atmosphere was unmistakably tense. Marcus appeared agitated. His co-host seemed withdrawn. The energy in the studio had shifted completely. Throughout the rest of the broadcast, Marcus kept dropping defensive comments, trying to justify himself. Sometimes interviews get tough, he said at one point. Not everyone can handle it. Each remark only made the backlash worse. Online, viewers dissected every minute of the exchange. The watered-down comment, in particular, drew fierce criticism, with people calling it cruel, unnecessary, and deeply unprofessional. Media analysts weighed in, many saying Marcus had entered the interview with a clear agenda. This wasn't journalism, one commentator noted. It was an attempt to manufacture a viral moment by provoking a guest known for his restraint. Others pointed out the power imbalance. Robert was young, on live television, answering questions controlled entirely by the host. Many called it bullying. Complaints flooded the network. Sponsors began asking questions. By the end of the day, the network released a brief statement affirming their commitment to respectful discourse and announcing a review of the interview, clearly distancing themselves from what had aired. Marcus took to social media that evening. He wrote that he stood by the interview, saying journalists have a responsibility to ask challenging questions and that respect for the Irwin family didn't place. Robert above scrutiny. The response was swift and brutal. Viewers pointed out the obvious. There is a difference between tough questions and personal attacks. Marcus hadn't meaningfully questioned conservation work at all. He'd made it personal. Robert, meanwhile, said nothing. He didn't post. He didn't respond. He didn't engage. His silence spoke volumes. Australia's zoo later released a short statement, expressing disappointment that the interview had veered away from conservation and supporting Robert's decision to leave a situation that was no longer respectful or productive. The conservation community rallied behind him. Wildlife advocates, educators, and environmental groups praised his composure and integrity. Over the following days, the incident became a case study in media ethics. Marcus's ratings dipped. His credibility took a hit. The consensus was clear. He had badly misjudged both his guest and his audience. Robert had shown that walking a Waven on live television can sometimes be the strongest response. So, that's the story of how Robert Irwin walked. Off the Today Show, it was a moment that shocked viewers in real time and sparked important conversations about how we conduct interviews and treat guests on television. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and drop a comment below. Let me know. Do you think Robert made the right call walking off, or should he have stayed and tried to salvage the interview? I want to hear your thoughts.